King's Cross is where my life changed completely for the first time, and I love this place with my heart and soul. It always pains me to come back. It pained me so much to leave, but to come back, I haven't been here for a long time. I haven't lived here for so long, but when I come back, it's like, this is home. This is where it all is. And people around my church would be surprised at that, because they'd think back there is my home. But I think coming and living here and then getting uprooted from here, I've never really recovered from in lots of ways. But it was here that my life changed for the first time. I'd been listening to Webster speak, and I'd been volunteering to help in the Wayside Chapel. I'd never seen so many homeless kids in my life, or homeless people in my life, or people who needed someone to talk to. And I realised that I was part of all of that. I needed to talk to people, and I needed to use my healing skills as well. And so I started helping at the Wayside Chapel, and then I had this experience because Ted Noffs had got me to work and help a lot with the church services, and it was then I had this massive religious experience which changed my life, because I'd been working as an engineer and I'd been studying single crystal silicon, and all of a sudden I realised that wasn't what I was set out to do. This was it. And I was walking up the stairs of the coffee shop to do my shift at the coffee shop, got to the landing, time stood still for an instant, and there was this knowing. And it just said, you got to leave your job, you got to come and work here, you got to work with the poorest of the poor, you got to do all of that sort of stuff. You'll become well known, but if you stay on track, the miracles will happen, and they have. And of course your personal life won't be all that happy, and because of the cost, there's a gift and a cost. And my life changed forever. I had to go to AWA, resign, come and work up here. Ted Noffs says to me, what's the least amount of money I can pay you? And I went from a research engineer's salary to $11 a week. And I was never felt happier. And that was when my life changed for the first time. The second time was in Calais in France. And I'd been visiting there a lot to the refugees in the jungle. And I saw a sign in there which said NA meeting today, and I thought I'd go to that. And I went into the NA meeting, and there were 20 people there, all from different countries: Africa, Iran, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia. There were Middle Eastern people, the Palestine, all different places, all these people, different, all sitting in a circle, men and women. And they were telling their story. And as they told their story, it was in their native language, which I didn't understand. But as it was all being translated into French, which I didn't understand either. So it got to me, and I thought, well, what am I going to say? I'm not an addict, I'm not any of this. And I said, I'm Bill from Australia. And they said, English. And I said, no, I can't get you to England, I'm Australian. And then it all poured out of me, and I said, I'm Bill from Australia. I've been married twice, I said, and the relationships have been rocky, I said, and my kids have suffered because of that, I said, and I feel really bad about that, I said. And all of these people got up and welcomed me in. In a way, they gave me my life back, in a way. And I thought, I have to acknowledge that my life has changed. How do you acknowledge something that's happened? And I went away and thought about it, and I thought, I'm going to change all my clothes. I'm going to wear black. I'm going to wear black in honour of all those people who gave me my life back. And so from that day on, I went out, I threw out all my clothes, put a whole black wardrobe, and I've worn the wardrobe ever since. And I have to come back to the cross, because this place is so important to me. So much of my emotional upbringing began from here. And now I'm starting to look backwards, and I'm starting to incorporate parts of my life which happened before I ended up in King's Cross. I'm starting to add all of that, but I see it all through a black lens, if you get what I mean, because my life changed so much on those two occasions. This is the cross today, but I can go back to the 70s. There was the big hotel there. It's ironic, it's just being rebuilt now. And the scaffolding and all that was exactly the same the first time I turned up here. And I walked along there and there were sellers all along the street sellers selling paintings and jewellery. I bought a ring, which was a peace ring, which I had on my finger, and it stayed on my finger for so long it eventually wore out. It just fell off my finger. There were people all the way along. I can remember walking up and down Darlinghurst Road with a signboard on advertising what I was doing at the Wayside Chapel, and people would come up to me and say, "Where can I buy some dope?" And I'd say, I don't know. This place was my home. There'd be a chicken shop across the road. I think, no, it's not there now, just across the road where I used to go and get my tea. I lived for a while in Victoria Street, just down there, and it was my emotional home. And most of us who came, I think, were young people who were struggling to find our identity. And somehow in helping one another, that began to form. But what started to form here has been instrumental in my life ever since. The fact that so many of the people who I met here, who had so many kind of afflictions and problems in their lives, which changed my way of thinking, because for so many people, they don't have an idea what it's like to be disabled or to have the world crush from under you. And here it's just all writ large, and so it's given me a chance to be able to share that knowledge with others. It was here in King's Cross that really I discovered religion, and Ted Noss always used to say, you discover religion in the hellholes of the world, and this place in those days, for a lot of people, really was a hellhole. You had the drug addiction, you had the prostitution, you had all of those sorts of hells that people can get caught into in this place. And it really made me think about what religion is, and it made me realise that in lots of ways religion is an experience. It's not a thing, it's an experience. They go on and on and on about God being a God of love, and then they talk about God being an entity, but love isn't an entity, love's an experience. And what that made me start to do was really question what conventional religion was all about. Because in lots of ways, conventional religion, in lots of ways, is made up by nice middle-class people sitting down and becoming theologians or all of that, and they can sit and write all their stuff and all of that. But it doesn't come out of the wellspring of the cauldron of humanity itself. And so I was really thinking a lot about that, and it wasn't until just a year or so ago I realised that you just leave the institutions to do what they do and what they're good at, but that's just stuff. And if you think about it, you think in the old days, you know, in Jewish times, if somebody was feeling guilty, then they'd go to the temple and they'd burn a few animals and all of that sort of stuff. And Jesus said, you don't do any of that, just come down to the river. And I feel that a lot now, that there's a lot of religious rituals that are kind of so caught up within the entity called the church or the synagogue or the temple. All this stuff is caught up when really what's most important is the cleansing of the human soul, and that comes through loving. It doesn't come through it comes through loving actions. It doesn't come through just doing what you're prescribed to do, because all that does is add insult upon injury. That's what I've discovered. King's Cross, in the days I was there, was a really bohemian place. I often find when I talk to church folk about what happened here and what I was involved in here, they look at me with kind of blank eyes and just can't work it out. But you'd have the prostitutes on the streets, and they all used to know me, you know, and they'd come up and chat to me, and I'd say hello, and you know, we'd have this kind of charade where they'd say, "Come on, Bill," and I'd say, no, I'm all right, you know, and you'd build this relationship. And I can remember two girls, I think they were on this corner here. There was this tiny little fella came up to one of them, and she shouts across the road to her prostitute mate. She says, "Hey Merle, you better take this one. He says he's a tiger." And you'd see things like that around the corner, around there. I think I saw my first dead body where a girl had overdosed and had died on the street. It took a while, it took me a while to get over that. It was here. There was a woman that I worked with for a long time. She overdosed like 150 times in less than 6 months. And the ambulance people, as they're working furiously trying to save her life, say, the day she dies, we're going to have a party. And I thought, oh dear, that's not, but she survived all that and then got off all of that, and then ironically died of a heart attack. There was one of the best known workers in King's Cross who helped me set up youth refuges around here. She died just around the corner, and part of her ashes are buried outside the Wayside Chapel, and the other part are buried in New Zealand. All in all, I miss it with all my heart. With all my heart, I miss it. There's the sitting in the coffee shop with like this, with people like Rosemary Horton, the Witch of the Cross. There was lay girls just around the corner where you'd sit and talk to Carlotta, and it was just an amazing sort of place where you'd suddenly see Sir Robert Helpman just walking down the road, or Chips Rafferty would be living just around the corner, and you'd look at them, and as they walk out of their place, you'd see some addicts starting to faint on the road. There were always young kids running away and getting up here, and it used to be a race at times between us and the police as who to get them first, because often the police weren't as full of integrity as they were supposed to be. So there was this young boy, and he started cheeking the coppers a lot, and he turned up to me and he had this big red mark all down his face where the copper had belted him one. There was another one where the police had put a gun to his head and told him to get out of the cross, and the next time there'd be an actual bullet in the chamber. The memories come flooding back of this place, but always the chutzpah of it, that the shopkeepers were like shopkeepers, but they all had a punch to them, you know, a kind of the only word I can think of is chutzpah, where they'd kind of all have a personality, you know. It wasn't like your common garden coffee shop in Gladesville or somewhere. Well, everybody here was part of the life of the place, and it's really sad in a way to see it becoming so middle class, but I wouldn't want all the misery that happened here to keep going on. It was just, there was just too much sadness amongst all the other stuff as well, and the people who exploited it. It's really good here. I feel totally at home here, and the sadness is that I have to leave it. And yet it's a bittersweet feeling, because where I go to, I have really strong relationships too. But it all began from here. All began from here. All began with one engineer who wasn't satisfied with his life, looking for something else, came to the cross, found it, and his life changed forever. And he always takes that part of the cross with him.